Bitcoin breaks the psychological barrier of 50K and triggers the first FOMO wave as ETF inflows continue accelerating. Is this the beginning of FOMO buying that will send us to new all-time highs? Asset manager Bernstein seems to think so. Plus, after a commercial about ice cream and potato chips, Joe Biden dons the laser eyes on his Twitter account. Is this actually real, or are we living in a simulation? And another example of our leaders being completely tone deaf. Janet Yellen says that we don't need prices to come down because wages are going up. Oh, and don't forget, there was this big thing that happened called the Super Bowl. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Monday, February 12th edition of the Bitcoin Daily Show. I'm Dante Cook, head of Swan Business. Here at Swan, we're on a mission to educate the world about Bitcoin. So please like this video and subscribe to the channel. That'll help us break through the noise on YouTube and help us to teach more and more people about Bitcoin. Well, today we have to talk about the Super Bowl because it's the Super Bowl.
Mahomes flings it. It's there! Hardman!
The Kansas City Chiefs defeated the San Francisco 49ers 25-22 in a thrilling overtime matchup. This gave Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs back-to-back Super Bowls. You know what was also back-to-back? 2 monster days of ETF inflows. On Friday, we saw ETF inflows of $542 million, with GBTC outflows at just $52 million. Wall Street loves Bitcoin. Wall Street is buying 12.5 times more Bitcoin than is being produced every single day. That number is only going to go up after the halving happens. These ETF inflows are trending up in a massive way. We're monitoring this chart because we're careful not to associate correlation and causation, but the ETF inflows and the price of Bitcoin are tracking very closely here in the short term. It seems like FOMO at the institutional level is just beginning. Analysts from Bernstein, a $700 billion asset manager, says that because of these ETF inflows and institutional investor interest, Bitcoin reaching an all-time high is pretty much guaranteed after the halving. Even prominent Bitcoiners like Tur Demeester say that 100K before the halving is not an inconceivable thought, which a year ago would have been crazy to even think about. You know that every Bitcoiner last night wanted to be a 49er, but everyone gets Bitcoin at the price that they deserve. And you know what happened this morning? It actually crossed $49,000 and even touched $50,000 for the first time since May of 2021. The last time Bitcoin was at $50,000 in May of 2021, things were a lot different than they are now. China had just banned Bitcoin mining, sending 50% of the world's hash rate to other places in the world. Coinbase had just gone public. FTX was selling paper Bitcoin to unsuspecting retail investors. The Terra Luna UST Ponzi scheme had started to begin to reveal itself. FTX acquired the naming rights to the Miami Heat Arena for $135 million, with no business revenues to support it. Interest rates were at nearly 0% before the Fed started hiking at a rate faster than any time in the history of markets. Compare that to now. Some of the largest and most respected institutions in the world are buying and promoting Bitcoin to their clients and actually custodying real Bitcoin on behalf of their customers' funds. We have a handful of other public companies who are Bitcoin-only companies, not just Tesla and MicroStrategy who are buying it in their corporate treasury. The United States is the Bitcoin mining hash rate capital of the world, not China. And the complete opposite of the Fed hiking rates, the Fed is pretty much guaranteed that they're going to be cutting rates in 2024. And we haven't just exited a Bitcoin halving, we're only 9 weeks from a Bitcoin halving. Over 70% of coins haven't moved in a year, and over 80% of coins haven't moved in at least 6 months. Diamond hands are holding and they're not selling. Like the Super Bowl ads we saw last night, you feel like a transition is happening. The old guard is exiting and the new guard is starting to come in. Boomers got their fix of some of their favorite pastimes, like Christopher Walken impressions, E-Trade babies, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, J-Lo, and Tom Brady doing a Dunkin' Donuts commercial, or Arnold Schwarzenegger yelling neighbor in a State Farm commercial.
Neighbor. Neighbor. Bah. Bah.
And just as though we are celebrating as millennials and Gen Z and Gen X that boomers no longer maintain the zeitgeist for ads in a Super Bowl, we also hope that our politicians who are way older than they need to be and clearly losing touch with reality are not the ones leading our policy decisions. Listen to this tone-deaf conversation between Senator Kennedy and Janet Yellen about how prices don't need to come down because wages are up.
It'll take a recession to get these prices down.
Well, we don't have to get the prices down
We
because
don't?
wages are going up, and a metric that is worth knowing is that the median American house worker
But let me stop you
is
because I'm going
able
to get cut
to
off.
buy
You don't
the-
think we need to get these prices down? You think it's okay that bacon's up 20% under President Biden? Chicken's up 23.5%. Coffee's up 30%. Gas is up 44%. New cars and trucks are up 20% because people can't afford that's used cars because people can't afford a new car. They're up 24% under Bidenomics. You don't think we need to get these prices?
Wages are also up, and wages are up
They're
more.
not up 24%. They're not up 27%. They're not up 23%. They're not up 31%.
I'm sorry, but what is...
People are really getting good at barely getting by.
First point I want to make. I love Senator Kennedy's CPI basket. Bacon, chicken, coffee, and used cars and trucks. That's an American CPI basket if I've ever seen one. Secondly, how can Janet Yellen say that Joe Biden is supporting America by decreasing healthcare costs and reducing copays for insulin shots when Joe Biden literally does a commercial talking about how we need more ice cream and we need more potato chips?
The Super Bowl Sunday. If you're anything like me, you like to be surrounded by a snack or two while watching the big game. You know, when buying snacks for the game, you might have noticed one thing. Sports drinks bottles are smaller. A bag of chips has fewer chips, but they're still charging you just as much. And as an ice cream lover, what makes me the most angry is that ice cream cartons have actually shrunk in size, but not in price. I've had enough of what they call shrinkflation. It's a ripoff. Some companies are trying to pull a fast one by shrinking the products little by little and hoping you won't notice. Give me a break. The American public is tired of being played for suckers. I'm calling on companies to put a stop to this. Let's make sure businesses do the right thing now.
The snack basket is unbelievable. Do we really need more chips, Joe? He did say the quiet part out loud. We all know that the Cool Ranch Dorito bag is 85% air. What Joe Biden fails to recognize is that his own policies to stimulate the economy are what's driving prices up and are what are driving these manufacturers to increase prices and decrease the amount of goods that we get for the amount that we pay. How can you say that you want decreasing prices or deflation while the system that you promote and the system that our entire economy is built on is predicated on inflation? When you couple that with excessive money printing and debt accumulation, what you get is more consumer spending. But you get consumers that are spending money that they don't actually have. As you see, credit card debt is exploding from consumers, reaching over $1.13 trillion. That's a hockey stick if I've ever seen one. He literally must be trolling us. Well, he's not trolling us about this, but in a weird turn of events, Bitcoiners thought that he was actually getting on the mission when he added laser eyes to his Twitter account. But he was actually trolling the Dark Brandon conspiracy theorist who said that aliens came out of the sky, shot the punt down, hit Darren Luter's legs in the right way so that Ray McLeod would drop the punt, and that Coach Shanahan would not go for it on 4th and 4 and give Patrick Mahomes the ball back with 2 minutes left to score, and that Taylor Swift would win her first Super Bowl before many sports franchises haven't won in just 3 months. And so we could all recognize Jason Kelce for the national treasure that he is. And also Andy Reid.
How about that D, baby?
Pause, Andy. Pause. Although Bitcoiners didn't see Joe Biden adding laser eyes to his Twitter account as an advertisement that they would have predicted before the Super Bowl. They also didn't see that Beyonce and Jay-Z would be accompanied by Jack Dorsey wearing a Satoshi shirt in their box. When Jack Dorsey popped up on the screen, every Bitcoiner was like, whoop. Here are some final thoughts for the day. Whether Bitcoin is having its moment right now, Bitcoin is not blockchain. Bitcoin is actually a time chain, or a publicly available ledger that keeps the truth and tracks money across space and time. This ledger records an accurate depiction of history and doesn't rewrite the rules so that every future generation can see. And like Bitcoin, Usher defies Father Time, singing, dancing, and moving the way that we all remembered him doing when we were in high school if you're a millennial. He pulled off one of the most amazing feats in the history of live performances, wearing skates while singing and not eating it while also being over 40 years old. Like refreshing the browser when Bitcoin reaches near 50K. Every person who was over 30 was on their toes, sliding around the floor of their neighbor's house at a Super Bowl party, waiting for what song that Usher would do next. And with Bitcoin and the mempool, we get to look back at what's happened in the past and eagerly await what happens in the future, with the next block upcoming in about 10 minutes. TikTok, next block. So if anyone asks you, is Bitcoin timeless? You can say, yeah. And yeah, my outfit is ridiculous. And with that, we're signing off for today. This is Dante Cook with Swan.com. Happy stacking.